This is the Louie T Network.
Man, I love some football. Man, I love some football. My favorite week is week 1, cause I'm watching football. First comes the preseason, and I don't take a day off. And then it gets even better when your team makes the playoffs. 32 teams go hard for one thing. They work for one thing. That Super Bowl ring. 32 teams go hard for one thing. They work for one thing. That Super Bowl ring. We in the lab room.
Welcome, you are in the lab room. Of course, I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Week number 8 in the National Football League. Man, does time fly. It's already week 8. We've already gotten to basically the midpoint of the season. That will come at week number 9. But man, I don't even want to think about the fact that we're almost halfway through the NFL season. Don't talk to me like that. Don't say those words to me because that's blasphemy in my household. I don't want to hear that. Keep that to yourself. But we're already at week 8, and so now you're getting to the point in a game like this, and we're going to jump into the Monday night showcase here shortly. Texans at Steelers, 2 3-3 football teams jockeying for a little bit of position, not just in their divisions, but in their respective conferences, or a conference, I should say, because they're both in the AFC. And what's interesting about this particular game is the fact that these are two teams that right now are at 3-3 and probably aren't going to win their division. And with the Steelers, you can't really say that for sure. I can assure you the Texans aren't winning the AFC South. As a matter of fact, that's a 2-team race. And if the Texans aren't a willing participant, then the Colts will do exactly what they did last year, which is run away with that division like a runaway freight train, and it'll just be the Colts division all the way. So if the Houston Texans can't keep pace, and with Ryan Fitzpatrick at the helm, I just don't know how long they can hang on. And, I hate to keep putting it on him, but he's been a starter for 5 different teams for a reason, and he's got a losing starting record for a reason. Okay, so let's not kid ourselves here. Ryan Fitzpatrick is not the answer in Houston, and they know that. And so there's only so many games you can skate by with him as your quarterback and get a W. But let's just, for the sake of argument, say that 5 teams in the AFC are locks to make the postseason. And right now there are 5 teams in the AFC with 5 W's. And you look at those teams, they are the Ravens, the Patriots, the Colts, the Denver Broncos, and the San Diego Chargers. So those 5 teams right now all have 5 wins to their name. Let's just assume, for the sake of assuming right now, that these teams end up with 10 games plus winning in 2014, which is not that far-fetched at all. Those are all good football teams in that conference. And so let's just assume they all punch a ticket to the dance, and now you got 1 spot. Remember, only 6 teams in each conference gets a ticket to the dance. So let's assume that those 5 are your participants in the AFC, and you got 1 wild card vacancy left. If you're the Miami Dolphins, if you're the Buffalo Bills, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, hell, even the Houston Texans, Kansas City Chiefs, throw them in the mix as well. You're saying, damn, what about me? Hey, I want a ticket to the dance. And so games like this become important because when you look up at the standings at the end of the season, you want to be able to say, hey, I beat that team head to head. I get in. If we got the same record, I get in before they do. I get a ticket before they do. So you got to find a way to win these type of ball games if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially at home. And again, I don't think the Texans are going to factor into the playoff equation when it's all said and done, but you just never know. This league is wacky that way. Go ahead and take care of business while you got an opportunity to. So if you're the Steelers, this is a big game. Coming off of that ugly loss on the road versus the Cleveland Browns last week, there's a lot of explaining to do. You got some explaining to do, Pittsburgh. And so if you're the Steelers, this is a huge one at home. You're on national television. Everybody's watching. All eyes on you. You embarrassed yourself last week. You need to come up with a strong performance and get it done in this football game. If you're the Texans, you've watched that lead you had in your division. You were up 2 games on everybody in that division, with the exception of Tennessee, but they don't count. And when this season started, they were 0-2, you were 2-0, you were feeling good about yourself, and you've slowly watched that lead evaporate into thin air, and now the Colts have overtaken you, and now you're just trying to keep pace. You're trying to hold on to their coattails and say, hey, don't leave me. Don't leave me down here with Jacksonville and Tennessee. I don't want to stay with them. So if you're Houston, this is a golden opportunity to go on the road, get a win that nobody expects you to grab, and keep pace with the Colts and not let them out of your sight just yet. So huge game as we jump into the Monday night showcase. And early on, the Houston Texans looked game and looked primed to steal one on the road. Arian Foster, 5 carries, 56 yards on the opening possession, including a 33-yard scamper on 3rd down, sets up an Alfred Blue touchdown catch. His first career touchdown, congratulations to him, the rookie out of LSU, helps the Texans get out to a 7-0 lead. 10 plays, 94 yards, into the end zone, 7-0 Texans. That's the way you start the football game. That was a gorgeous start for this Texans football team. Big Ben fumbles the football. Whitley Merciless forces the football out, and it's recovered by J.J. Watt. And it was funny because the play before, literally 2 plays before, John Gruden was praising Big Ben on how he extends plays and how he's able to hold on to the ball longer than any quarterback in the league. And he had actually made a really good play 2 plays prior by holding on to the football for an extended period of time. And this is what you get with Ben Roethlisberger. You get the good Ben, you get the bad Ben. It's a gift and a curse, the fact that he holds on to the football so long. You want to know why Ben Roethlisberger has been the most sacked quarterback over the duration of his career versus, all these other quarterbacks that are out here? It's because he holds on to the football. So it's a gift and a curse. But you want to know why Ben Roethlisberger has 2 Super Bowl rings? Because he holds on to the football longer than any quarterback in the league. So it's a gift and a curse. And so you saw the gift 2 plays prior where he holds on to the ball, able to extend the play, find his receiver, pick up a 1st down. Now you see the curse. 2 plays later, he holds on to the football way too long, takes a sack. Whitley Merciless is able to punch the football out. It's on the ground, and J.J. Watt is able to scoop it up. And so Texans are in business at the Steelers' 46-yard line. That's the end of the first quarter with the Texans in Steelers territory looking to put some more points on the board. And that they did. They tack on a field goal in the second quarter. It's now 10-0. Texas on top in this game early on. So, and now the Steeler faithful starting to get a little restless and weary. You hear some boo birds coming out as the play calling gets a little conservative, and the Steelers aren't moving the football, having to punt. Texans get the football back after the Steelers have to punt. And 3rd consecutive scoring drive for the Texans as they muster another field goal. It's now 13-0 Texans up in this game, and you're saying to yourself, wow, these Texans have come in here ready to play football. Meanwhile, the Steelers look like they're having a little bit of a hangover from last week's debacle in Cleveland, and they're struggling right now. So it didn't look good for the Steelers early on. And again, crowd getting very restless. You can hear the boo birds coming out. And there's been so much talk about this Steelers team and them being in transition and all of those things, a young football team, a lot of injuries. All of those things ring true. However, everybody's dealing with injuries. Everybody has an influx of young guys on their football team. You have to deal with it. It's the National Football League. No excuses. This is a no excuses league. Nobody wants to hear them because everybody's got excuses. And so they can give them to you all day long. Hell, I got a list of them right here for my Redskins. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear them. So if you're the Steelers, you got to find a way to dig yourself out of this hole. You're down 13-0 on national television to a Texans team that, frankly, no one feels like should be dominating you this way. But it's happening, and this is a reality. So Steelers need to pick it up. And so this was the play of the game. To me, this was the turning point of the game, because if this doesn't happen, I think that the Steelers continue to sleepwalk through the first half and potentially go south in this game. But Le'Veon Bell's 43-yard catch and run on third down sets up a 44-yard Sean Sweetson field goal. It's now 13-3. And let me tell you about this play. The Steelers were pinned deep in their own territory. We're talking about inside their own 10-yard line when Ben Roethlisberger finds Le'Veon Bell on this arrow route. And a simple arrow route, when you veer outside and you sharply stick your foot in the ground, go across the face of the linebacker. That's exactly what he did on this play. And you know what? I've got this whole thing in my mind about what Brian Cushing used to be. And I've slowly begun to realize what he is now. He's no longer that same, linebacker, that same kid that came into the league running around like a bat out of hell. I mean, literally like a guy with his hair on fire. I mean, he used to run around the field, was highly athletic, could make plays sideline to sideline. On this particular play, you saw just how much those injuries have taken a toll on him. As I swear he was running in slow motion. It looked like he was stuck in the mud or something. And yes, it was a little rainy in Pittsburgh in this game, and you would have thought his foot got caught in the mud. You're like, oh, okay, hey, Brian, slow down. Don't worry about it. If your foot got caught in the mud, I don't want you to tear another ACL, man. Don't even chase him. But he was running like he had a refrigerator on his back. I mean, Le'Veon Bell didn't look like he was Speedy Gonzalez on the play, and he was smoking Brian Cushing. And I said, man, Brian, those injuries have really reduced you to an average linebacker in this league. My goodness. And so, and maybe he just isn't fully healed from those injuries. I don't know. I just don't think he'll ever be that same guy anymore. But that was a huge play because it took the Steelers away from the shadow of their own end zone. It gave them a much needed jolt of energy and a first down. Again, if they would have had to punt, that was third down, they would have had to punt from the shadow of their own end zone. Texans get great field position. They're probably going to tack on another field goal at minimum, might even score a touchdown, and the route could ensue then. But instead, they pick up a huge gain. They flip the field position, end up getting a field goal on the scoreboard, and now they're in business. Crowd gets involved. They get a little bit of momentum, and here's what happens. And this is something that I rarely see. I don't like speaking for anybody else, so I'm going to just speak for myself. This is something that I rarely have seen, maybe seen once or twice before, but you don't see points in bunches for one team come like this very often. And so here we go. Keep up, because it's crazy, it's fast, it's furious. The Steelers go on the type of run that few, if many, have in this league. Texans go 3 and out. Le'Veon Bell escorted by Marquise Pouncey for a 29-yard screen. Then Martavis Bryant, the rookie out of Clemson, who was on the PUP list. And again, I talked about this in a couple of the previews for the games or the breakdowns of the games, that you're starting to see a lot of players that haven't been on the team thus far because they were injured on the PUP list. Now those PUP list guys, after 6 weeks of being on that injury list, you can come off and be activated, and you're starting to see a lot of guys who are on that PUP list who have been chomping at the bit to get on the field, starting to get opportunities to come out and play. And so Martavis Bryant, we've been talking about the Steelers needing a number 2 receiver. Look, Tones is the man. Tones is the man in Pittsburgh, but he has no help. And until he gets some legit help on the other side of the field, teams are going to gear up to try to stop Tones. And it's not enough. One guy in this league isn't enough. Ask the Detroit Lions with Helms to Megatron. That's why they went out and got Golden Tate. One isn't enough. You got to have one. Is the loneliest number that you'll ever do. You can't have one at the receiver position. You need 2. You need 3. Hey, the more the merrier. But one isn't enough. So Steelers need help. Martavis Bryant might be the answer, and on this play you saw why the Steelers felt like he was worth investing a 3rd-round pick on. Kid is huge, 6'4", runs a sub 440, and so he can play football, and he showed you. He's still raw, but he's got speed. He's got something you can't teach. Speed! And so he got up the field, got behind the defense, caught the deep ball in the end zone, 35-yard touchdown, just like that. It's 13-10. Steelers, who were just down 13-0, now it's 13-10. On the ensuing kickoff, Daniel Manning muffs the kickoff. Then he's lackadaisical in picking it up, looking at the rush instead of going down and getting the football and trying to make something of it. And so he picks the football up. Steelers are down the field. They tackle him at the 5-yard line. 2 plays later, Arian Foster, the short-handed Arian Foster, puts the football on the turf, and he put the church's money on the floor. It's scooped up by the Steelers, and 2 plays later, Antonio Brown And it's crazy. Literally, the very next play, I should say, Antonio Brown, Steelers must have been sitting on this one for a while because they come out and they do a pitch to Tones. And as he's coming around the formation, he stops, he pivots, turns back around, and he's left-handed. I don't think that anybody knew he was left-handed. And so he turns back around and fires a dart into the end zone to Lance Moore, who catches the football in the end zone for a 5-yard touchdown. Just like that, Steelers are ahead in this game, 17-13. Again, Steelers were trailing the entire first half, 13-0, and now all of a sudden a barrage of points come down and the Steelers are up 17-13. But they're not done yet. Wait, there's more. Like one of those infomercials. Wait, there's more. The next play from scrimmage, after the Steelers kick off the football to the Texans, Brett Kiesel, the bearded one, gets an interception. It's deflected by Kiesel, bounces off of a Steelers defender, and then as he turns around to see what's going on, hey, the football hits him right in the chest. He grabs it, turns around, gets up the field. Steelers are in scoring range once again. 2 plays later, Ben Roethlisberger finds Le'Veon Bell in the end zone for a 2-yard touchdown catch. It's 24-13 in a span of 2 minutes and 54 seconds. The Steelers have scored 24 unanswered points. And if you want to take away the field goal, because that's what really has this gap, you're talking about a minute and 13 seconds, 21 points. 3 touchdowns in a minute and 13 seconds. I've never seen anything like it before. That kind of barrage of points for one team with the turnovers and the cooperation from the other team rarely happens in this league. The Texans went from dominating this football game up 13-0 to down, virtually being blown out 24-13. I mean, unreal. That is a change and a turn of events that I haven't seen the likes of in this league. And they said since that butt fumble game on Thanksgiving a couple of years ago. I mean, I stopped watching that game. It was Thanksgiving. I'm gearing up for Black Friday shopping. It got ugly quick. I turned that game off immediately. So I didn't even know that the Patriots went off on them like that. But this was crazy. This was surreal. And so it's 24-13. I mean, we've just had enough fireworks in this game to last us the entire game. And you could tell that a lot happened in this game because we got no action until the fourth quarter again. So we skip all the way to the fourth quarter. Nothing happened in the third quarter. And so it's 24-13. The score remains as we head to the fourth quarter. Texans finally get on the scoreboard with a field goal for the first time since the first quarter. Again, they were up 13-0. It seems like ages ago in this game. So now it's 24-16. They've cut it to a 1-score lead. And of course, down 8, need a 2-point conversion to tie the game up. After a couple of Texans penalties extends the Steelers' drive. And Tones has a touchdown overturned on replay. They called it a touchdown initially. Looked like he had got both feet down. You look at the replay, foot is on the chalk. They overturn it, say it's incomplete. They have to settle for a Sean Sweeten field goal. It's now 27-16 Steelers up in the football game. And then MNF strips the football. Mike Mitchell strips the football from D-Hop. And that was a huge play. DeAndre Hopkins running down the field after a nice catch and run. Eminem comes up on him, strips him of the football, balls on the carpet. Troy Polamalu scoops it up, takes it into Texans territory, and the Steelers add another field goal for good measure to make it 30-16. Texans make it interesting late as they go down the field, get a touchdown, make it 23-30, so they're down a touchdown with a pending onside kick. And you know how Waterboy, you remember Waterboy when the guy was lining up to kick it, he said, "Where's my bitch? Where's my bitch?" And he's looking, and he's scanning, and then he sees the guy like this. He said, "Yeah, there's my bitch." And he kicks on the football. And they light him up, and the ball comes out, and Waterboy's team recovers the football. Well, I felt like the Bullock, the kicker for the Texans, did the same thing to the Steelers. He scanned the line. He said, "Where's my bitch? Where?" And he found it. He found Darius Hayward-Bay, my favorite guy to pick on. Why is he still in the league? The guy can't catch claps in a whorehouse, as my old high school coach used to say. Why is he still in the league? He can't catch. And so, why is he on the hands team? That's the funniest thing to me. A guy that can't catch is on the hands team. You're better off putting Brett Kiesel, the bearded one who had an interception in this game. You're better off putting him on the hands team than Darius Hayward-Bay. But anyway, He finds, Bullock finds, he scans him. Randy Bullock scans the Pittsburgh Steelers. He said, there's my bitch. I'm kicking it to Darius Heyward-Bey. And he kicks him, and it took a nice gratuitous hop. And you knew it. You know, Darius Heyward-Bey was standing there. Please don't kick it to me. Please don't kick it to me. Please don't. Oh, shit, it's coming to me. It's coming to me. He jumps up. Of course, the ball caroms off of his stone hands into the air, and it's a mad dash and scramble for the football. I know Steelers fans are like, you've got to be kidding me. Please land on this football. Do not let the Texans end up with this football. We don't need the drama. We've had enough of it this season with the late game, heart attack games. We don't need this. We had one against Cleveland week 1. We don't need this. We had another one against Tampa Bay. We came up on the short end of that one. We don't need any more of these pacemaker games. Please recover this. Luckily enough for them, Michael Palmer, the backup tight end, dives on the football after about a nice 10-second scrum for the football. And they squirted out at least 3 different times. And then they take, and I love this, they give me the last dejected shot of Darius Heyward-Bey walking off the field. I suck at football. Yeah, you suck. You can't catch, man. You can't catch. And so, Steelers win the football game, though, 30-23. And they moved their record to 4-3. Big win for them, especially being down 13-0. To have that barrage of points and to battle back after being down is huge on the part of the Steelers. Now, my thing is, you need to be more consistent. Again, everybody's not the Texans. Everybody's not going to hand you turnovers and allow you to run off 24 unanswered points and take the lead in a game that they were dominating 13-0. If that's Andrew Luck and the Colts, even though they like to turn the football over, if they're up 13-0, you're in some serious trouble against that Colts team. And they're coming to town soon. So this isn't a habit you want to make if you are the Steelers. You need to play consistent football from that opening whistle all the way to the very last one. So, hey, way to get it done, though. I mean, look, it doesn't have to be pretty in this league. You just need to get the W, and that you did. If you're the Texans, this one makes you sick to your stomach. Your head coach, Bill O'Brien, was very emotional after the game. He was very upset at the fact that they blew a lead. They were up 13-0. It's so hard in this league to build a 13-point lead on the road. Okay? It's tough to build a 13-point lead, period, unless you're an explosive offense and it's something you do on the regular like the Denver Broncos. Then it's nothing to build a 13-point lead. But for the Texans to go on the road on Monday night on primetime and build a 13-point lead and play as well as they did early in this game, to see it evaporate the way it did and see you have your part in it the way you did, that's frustrating. It really stings as a coach to see your team underachieve that way. And so he was upset, and you could tell. These are the type of games that you need to win. If you're the Texans, you're struggling. You don't want to fall behind in the standings in your division. You want to keep pace with a lot of these other teams that might be vying for wild cards. I ran off a list of them. Kansas City, Miami, Buffalo, this Pittsburgh Steelers team, the Cincinnati Bengals. These are all teams that could be in the playoff hunt down the line. You need to keep pace with them. You can't lose a game like this when you're up 13-0. And literally, this happened 3 minutes before halftime. This game got out of control 3 minutes before the half. Insane. Again, rarely see anything like this. It was just crazy. But Texans dropped it. They're now 3-4 in the season, and they got to pick themselves up. And again, it was funny because when we were talking about the draft way back in April, leading up to the May draft, everybody kept saying, why would the Texans draft Jadeveon Clowney? They already got J.J. Watt. They don't need any more defensive help. They need a quarterback. And I kept saying you can never have enough studs on the defensive side of football. You can never have enough studs. And now I feel like J.J. Watt now has put him. He's in a position now where he's like LeBron. You know, at the end of a game. Remember when LeBron played with the Cleveland Cavaliers the first time around? LeBron 1.0, not LeBron Cavs 2.0. I'm talking about way back when he first entered the league. And it was LeBron and a cast of characters, a cast of bums. And he was able to win games and have the best record in the league. But when it got to the postseason, they couldn't win because teams were better. They just had more talent than he had on his team and a better surrounding cast. Remember what that team used to do at the end of games? It'd be LeBron, ISO, dribbling, trying to break down 5 guys on defense. And you got Damon Jones and, Donyell Marshall and a whole bunch of guys just standing there like this. Hey, get him, Bron. Get him. Get him, Bron. And I feel like that's what J.J. Watt has going on in Houston right now, where he's just the only guy that can make a play for this team. If he doesn't make a play, nobody else is going to make a play. And that's why they need Jadeveon Clowney to come back fast, in a hurry, and they need him to be impactful when he does come back, because J.J. Watt needs some help. Even though teams are trying all these things to stop him, he's still getting to the quarterback. He still needs some help. He needs some help in the worst way. And so Texans dropped this one 30-23. They're now 3-4 in the season. Steelers get the win. Big win for them. They're keeping pace with the Ravens again. You want to keep them in arm's reach. They're 5-2. You're 4-3 on the season. Cincinnati's struggling right now. Way to get a win and leapfrog them in the standings. Stay within arm's reach of the Ravens. You never know what's going to happen. Even though you've already played the Ravens one time and they've taken you down, they still got to come to Heinz Field. So stay in arm's reach of the Ravens. Make sure you're there in case they decide to have a little bit of a mishap here or there. You're able to strike and take advantage of it. So big win for the Steelers, 23-30 at home versus the Houston Texans. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, wrap this episode up here on the Tuesday edition of In the Lab Room. Social media has taken off in ways that I couldn't have imagined. And thus, I've taken the liberty to start being more active on social media. So like me on Facebook at In the Lab Room. Follow me on Twitter at In the Lab Room. You can also +1 me on Google Plus at Louie T. And also, of course, my main hub, subscribe to my channel on YouTube. That's youtube.com/In the Lab Room. These are all ways that I'm looking forward to interacting with you, the viewers, in the upcoming season of the Louie T Network. Welcome back to the program. I thank you for joining me here in the Lab Room. I want to tack on this quick extra point. By now, you've all heard of the Percival Harvin trade from Seattle to the New York Jets. If you haven't had a chance, I did a video, check it out, on that trade. That being said, I'm anxious to see how that works out for the Jets. We saw how this trade may have impacted the Seahawks, not necessarily on the field as much as the distraction. And Doug Baldwin kind of spoke to that. He said, hey, that trade impacted us, not necessarily on the field. I thought the Seahawks had one of their most explosive days offensively on the season. I mean, Russell Wilson threw for over 300 yards. Doug Baldwin had over 100 yards receiving. And Russell Wilson ran for over 100 yards. I mean, offensively, that wasn't a problem. Special teams and defense let the Seahawks down in that game against the Rams. And so Doug Baldwin said that game affected us, though. We struggled in this game because of the distraction. And I can't doubt that. I mean, again, this is a team that usually keeps the noise outside of their building. They weren't able to do that this week because of that trade. So, you know, a lot of scrutiny happened in Seattle. A lot of questions were being asked. Did he punch you in your face? Did he get in your face? Did he get in Russell Wilson's face? I mean, there was a lot going on in Seattle because of that trade. And so you saw how it impacted, but take nothing away from the St. Louis Rams. Did they pull out all the stops or what? I mean, man, they went out. They used every trick in the book to get a W, man, including the guts of a burglar, using a fake punt deep in their own territory late in the ball game. They saw the tea leaves. They saw the writing on the wall. They knew if we punt them the football here, they're going to complete this comeback. And we're going to have our heads hurt again. Another deflated lead and another loss at home after winning big early in the game. So they saw what was happening. They said, we cannot punt the football here. They rolled the dice. Ha! Scared money don't make money. And it all worked out for the St. Louis Rams. They get a big W. The Dallas Cowboys continue to roll. They moved to 6-1 with a nice win over the New York Giants. Peyton Manning breaks the record and does it in style as the Denver Broncos destroy and dismantle the San Francisco 49ers. Don't look now. Don't look now. Shh, don't tell anybody I told you this either. The Arizona Cardinals are 5-1. Look who's atop the NFC West. The Arizona Cardinals. Who would have thought that would be the case this deep into the season? Cardinals, and again, Cardinals still have a lot of football left to play. They've already had their bye week. They still got to go to San Francisco. They still haven't played Seattle not one time yet. Haven't played the Rams at all yet. So they still got a lot of football to play within their division. And they've had a pretty soft schedule. If you want to be frank, They've played the likes of Oakland and Washington thus far. Their only loss of the season came to the Denver Broncos. So they did beat the 49ers, though. So don't discount what they've done. They beat San Diego as well. So I say they've had a soft schedule. They've also played some really good teams. They beat San Diego. They beat they beat San Francisco. So they've played some teams. They've beat some teams. They've gotten some layups, and they've made sure they put them in the bucket. Hey, I can't wait to see how this division unfolds, because right now, in the NFC right now, you look at it, you look at the big picture. And again, I talked about the AFC. Let's talk about the NFC for a second. You look at the big picture here, and Philadelphia and Dallas look like they're primed to make postseason runs. So let's just assume that those two teams make a push for the postseason, and they're both in, okay? That putrid NFC South has to have one participant. Let's just say, you know what? I honestly think if the Saints can continue to play like they played against Detroit and start winning ball games, I think the Saints can come back and take that division. I don't really like the way the Panthers are playing football. I don't like the way anybody in that division is playing football, but somebody's got to go. The Panthers are ahead in the division, so let's give it to them right now. So, okay, so the Panthers are in. That's 3 teams. Look at the North. You got to look at the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. Let's just assume that 2 of those teams, those 2 at the top right now, continue to play good football, and they throw their name in the hat. That's 5 teams. What do you do if you look up and only one team is coming out of the West? What happens if Green Bay and Detroit keep playing good football and they both end up 12-4? That's not going to happen. Detroit's going to lose a couple of games that they have no business losing. But let's just say that Green Bay goes 12-4, wins the division, and Detroit goes 11-5. Right now, the Seahawks already have 3 losses. So do the 49ers. And they're not even done. They haven't even really delved into their divisional schedule yet. So you got to think to yourself, they're going to beat each other up in that division. It's going to be hard pressed to find 2 teams that come out of that division at 11-5. You know, Arizona might come out of there 11-5, but San Francisco only losing 2 more games the entire season. I don't see that happening. They could get hot. You mean when they get all their stuff back? You know, P. Will comes back, P. Willis, and you get Navarro Bowman, and you get, and they're talking about lowering the suspension. I'm pretty sure you've seen that. They're talking about kind of decreasing that suspension by a game or 2 for their outside linebacker. They could use the pressure, man. They could definitely use the pressure of Aldon Smith. They're talking about lowering his suspension. So if he comes back and the cavalry arrives for this 49ers team, maybe they could go on a run. I'm just saying, but man, just think though. I just gave you 5 teams that could potentially make some noise in the NFC. This West that we thought was this almighty division, all of a sudden looks very vulnerable. They might only get 1 team. Man, it's early. I mean, the scenarios and the possibilities are endless. I mean, Detroit could fall flat on their face, and we could only get 1 team out of the North. The West could just turn out to be a powerhouse like we thought going into the season. They could get their act together, and all of a sudden, you still get 3 teams out of there. You don't know what's going to happen. All I know is, at the beginning of the season, we thought that it was a realistic possibility that we could get 3 teams out of the West. I no longer think that's the case. I think they'll be lucky to get 2 out of that division. Now, especially if Detroit and Green Bay keep playing, because if Philly and Dallas keep playing the way they're playing, and Detroit and Green Bay keep playing the way they're playing, keep in mind that their divisions aren't as tough as that West. They're going to beat up on each other in the West. Whereas in the East, you got the Giants and the Redskins who are stinking it up. And in the North, you got the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears that are suspect that you could probably get a couple of wins off of. So all I'm saying is the North could get 2 and the East could get 2. Then that means the West and the South, they're only getting 1 apiece. So I'm just saying it's early, man. I hate using the P word in week number 8, but hey, I'm just letting you know. We've gotten to this point and things are starting to round into shape. Hey, keep your eyes on the prize if you're those teams out in the NFC West. And so that's going to do it for this installment of In the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me. If it happens in the National Football League, the big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. Come back and join me as I've got plenty more things to discuss all week long here on this program. I'll see you tomorrow. Pats, Daps, Smacks. We've also got the Soul Survivor for week number 8. So come back and join me tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. I will see you then.
In the lab.